The effect also offers something genuinely worth quietly reflecting on regarding your own existing personal relationships. The people you currently feel closest to in your life are very often not simply the people who have consistently done the most for you over time. They are frequently, and perhaps just as importantly, the people you yourself have personally invested real, meaningful effort into helping along the way. Kindness, it genuinely turns out, tends to flow considerably more powerfully in both directions than most people ever initially assume. If this changed how you think about building genuine connection with others, hit like, share it with someone who could use a research-backed excuse to finally ask for that favor, and subscribe for more real psychology explained clearly. Mistreating someone tends to reliably justify itself internally through a corresponding, retroactive decrease in genuine empathy and respect for that specific person. Historians and social psychologists studying wartime behavior have specifically documented versions of this same troubling pattern on a genuinely much larger societal scale. Soldiers and ordinary civilians who have personally participated in harming a specific rival group frequently report, afterward, developing considerably more negative and dehumanizing attitudes toward that exact same group, attitudes that were often measurably weaker or entirely absent before the harmful actions actually took place. The mind, in a very real sense, works persistently backward from behavior that has already occurred to construct a belief system that feels internally consistent and psychologically justified, rather than the belief reliably coming first and the harmful behavior simply and directly following from it afterward. Understanding the Ben Franklin effect offers a genuinely practical, ethical application worth carefully considering in your own daily interactions with others. Rather than exclusively focusing on impressing new people or lavishing them with unsolicited favors and gifts, consider instead occasionally and genuinely asking for their specific help, their honest opinion, or their particular expertise on something meaningful. This particular approach works considerably better specifically because it is authentic, not manipulative. The clear key ethical distinction lies in genuinely valuing the other person's real contribution rather than deliberately manufacturing some sort of artificial, contrived favor purely to cynically exploit their own psychology for personal gain. Entirely of your own accord, seemingly without any obvious external justification or clear obligation. Consider a fairly common workplace scenario that illustrates this principle quite clearly. A new employee, eager to build genuine connections within an unfamiliar team, might feel instinctively tempted to constantly offer unsolicited help to more experienced colleagues, hoping this generosity will naturally build warm goodwill over time. Counterintuitively, research on this exact effect suggests that occasionally asking a respected senior colleague for their specific guidance on a genuinely difficult problem often builds a considerably stronger, faster sense of mutual connection than repeated one-directional offers of help ever reliably do. The senior colleague, having personally invested real time and thoughtful effort into helping the newcomer succeed, subsequently and unconsciously begins to feel a stronger, more genuine personal investment in that newcomer's overall success and continued well-being. There's also a genuinely darker, considerably less discussed mirror image of this exact same underlying psychological effect. Just as helping someone reliably tends to increase our own genuine liking for them, deliberately or carelessly harming someone can just as powerfully decrease it. This specific pattern helps explain a well-documented and genuinely troubling phenomenon researchers call moral disengagement. When a person treats someone else unfairly or poorly, their own mind similarly seeks a psychologically consistent explanation. Rather than uncomfortably concluding that they personally behaved poorly toward a genuinely decent person, it often feels considerably easier and more comfortable to instead quietly conclude that the other person must have deserved that specific poor treatment in the first place. This same underlying mechanism plays a documented role in how prejudice and ongoing discrimination can gradually intensify and worsen over time, since experiment itself had genuinely run out of dedicated research funds. A separate control group of participants was never asked for anything at all. When everyone was later asked how much they had personally liked the researcher, the specific group who had been personally asked to return their money rated the researcher considerably more favorably than the group who had not been asked for anything whatsoever. The underlying psychological explanation for this entire pattern centers directly on a concept called cognitive dissonance, first formally developed and described by psychologist Leon Festinger. Cognitive dissonance describes the genuine mental discomfort we experience whenever two of our own beliefs, or a specific belief in a specific action, directly and clearly contradict one another. When you personally do something kind for another person, like returning valuable prize money or lending out a genuinely rare, valuable book, your own brain instinctively searches for a reasonable, internally consistent explanation for that specific action. Since you cannot easily and honestly tell yourself that you helped a person you genuinely dislike for absolutely no clear reason at all, your mind instead quietly and unconsciously adjusts your underlying feelings towards that specific person to actually match your own recent, observable behavior. You conclude, largely unconsciously, that you must have actually helped them because you like them rather than the other way around. This mechanism differs quite meaningfully from simple, ordinary reciprocity, the far more commonly understood social principle where people generally tend to return favors that others have already done for them first. The Ben Franklin effect actually runs in the completely opposite psychological direction. It is not about you liking someone more because they did something kind for you. It is instead specifically about you liking someone more because you personally did something kind for them. Most people genuinely believe the fastest way to win someone over is to do something kind for them. Buy them a thoughtful gift, offer a generous favor, or go noticeably out of your way to be helpful. But one of the most counterintuitive, well-documented findings in all of modern social psychology research suggests the exact opposite might actually work considerably better in many real situations. Sometimes the fastest and most reliable way to genuinely make someone like you is to ask them for a small favor instead. This phenomenon is called the Ben Franklin effect, named directly after a specific personal story Benjamin Franklin himself recounted in his own written autobiography. According to Franklin's own written account, he once had a rival member of the Pennsylvania legislature who genuinely disliked him. Rather than attempting to win this particular rival over through flattery, expensive gifts, or open displays of obvious kindness, Franklin instead did something quite deliberately odd. He politely asked to borrow an exceptionally rare, valuable book from the man's personal library. The rival agreed. Afterward, according to Franklin's own written account, that same rival became noticeably more friendly and considerably more cooperative and warm towards him, eventually becoming a genuine, lasting close friend for the remainder of Franklin's own life. For nearly 2 entire centuries, this specific story remained little more than an interesting historical anecdote passed down informally. Then, in 1969, psychologists John Jecker and David Landy decided to formally and rigorously test this specific old story under controlled laboratory conditions. In their now classic experiment, participants first competed in a task specifically designed to win a modest cash prize. Afterward, the researcher personally approached one particular group of participants and specifically asked them, as a distinct personal favor, to please return their prize money, falsely claiming the